Cadillac Planning Commission meeting to order right now. Again, December 23rd, 2024, for that date. Anyway, if I could bother everyone to please join me for the pledge.
Great. God.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Roll call, please, Danielle.
Absolutely. Filkins?
Here.
Host?
Here.
Rice?
Here.
Bunce?
Here.
Bosher?
Here.
Bauman? Fent?
Here.
Van Pelt?
Here.
Putvin?
Here. Thank you. First on our agenda this evening, approval of this agenda. Hey, how's that? For December 23rd, 2024. Sorry.
I'll second it.
Putvin?
Yes.
Bosher?
Yes.
Bauman? Van Pelt?
Yes.
Fent?
Yes.
Rice?
Yes.
Filkins?
Yes.
Host?
Yes.
Bunce?
Yes.
Thank you. Now I just need approval of last month's November 25th, 2024 meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Bauman? Fent?
Yes.
Bunce?
Yes.
Filkins?
Yes.
Van Pelt?
Yes.
Rice?
Yes.
Bosher?
Yes.
Putvin?
Yes.
Host?
Yes.
Okay, we have 3 public hearings tonight, so we're going to start with A first. We have an application filed by Brian Goodman to allow for an outdoor display and sales of wood and steel structures at 1125 and 1129 North Mitchell. Having read that, Danielle is going to go run for
Yeah,
it.
thank you. So as Mr. Chair stated, we have an application before us for special land use to allow for the sale and display of wood and steel structures at 1125 and 1129 North Mitchell Street. These properties are located just south of East 13th Street and just north of 10th Street. The formal use of these properties was a used car dealership, and there you'll see the parcel numbers. Here is an aerial image of the properties.
Yep.
The applicant, Brian Goodman, Just Wood and Steel Sales and Design Center, is seeking the special land use to allow for outdoor display and sales of wood and steel structures. Brian has been in business for 6 years, and he currently has 2 other design centers, and Cadillac would be the 3rd location. Seen here is the site plan. You'll see that he's proposing to put 4 structures on the property. There will be a 24-foot width aisleway to allow access from both driveways. Both driveways will be open, ample parking for customers and staff. You'll see on the west side of the property there'll be a dumpster, and that dumpster will be screened as well. Pictured here are the proposed structures, samples of what is at his other lots, and these are the same kind of structures that Brian is proposing to put on site. You'll see adjacent use is the railroad, which is north and then runs behind the property as well. You'll see that these displays will also kind of buffer the train tracks, so I think it would be a good use of the site and kind of give us that nice buffer for when you're going down Mitchell Street. And then to the west is Benton Baker, formerly Don's Auto Clinic. They have their detail shop and then the car lot. Staff analysis, the standards in the zoning ordinance, section 46-747, Planning Commission should use this to determine whether the proposed use should be permitted. Staff has outlined their thoughts for the proposed use meeting the standards in your staff report. Considerations for action. Planning Commission should base their decision off the applicant meeting or not meeting the standards contained in the zoning ordinance. And staff recommendation would be to approve the special land use permit request for Brian Goodman, Just Wood and Steel Sales and Design Center for outdoor display and sales of such structures as presented. Brian is here. Should the board have any questions, or if Brian has anything else that he would like to share with the board, you're welcome to step up to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Brian Goodman. I'm the Managing Director of Steel Operations for Just Wood and Steel Sales and Design Center. We are excited for this location here in Cadillac. We've been looking for some time now, so much so that I'm actually moving my entire family up here. So we are making this our home as well. I currently have one son who is attending Ferris State University in Big Rapids, and my other son just became a firefighter in Traverse City. So we're planning to put our stuff right in the middle from Big Rapids to Traverse City. In regards to the Sales and Design Center, it is going to be a very nice looking facility. It's going to allow people to have the actual option to come on site, view buildings that normally they wouldn't see, but usually online. The steel business has gotten a black eye as of late in regards to a lot of the ads and a lot of the people that sell them. And I've made this my livelihood to do it the correct way by working with people, showing them what they're buying, not just some tin metal can that somebody's going to throw up on their yard and take their money and run. This is a very serious building. They're all Michigan stamped engineered structures. We also do major facilities too. We can do all the way up to 100 by 1,000. So we can do up to 10,000 square foot structures, even bigger if requested, with special commercial structures. One of those displays that will be on that lot will be a commercial structure that will show the customers what they can get. Now, it's not going to be a huge structure. It's going to be smaller, brought down to size, but it will show the current customers and the possible commercial customers what they're able to get by going with our group. So I will be the one staffing this location. I will be the one running this location. This will not be ran by employees as of right now, because I want to make sure that everything is done correctly and also following the rules and statutes of the city of Cadillac and their zoning and municipality regarding steel structures. So I will be working with your building department very hand in hand to make sure that all customers that come to our location will be able to get a structure that is not only approved because of their setbacks and easements on their property, but also approved by your building department to make sure that we have a conjoined effort in making sure that the presentation and also the building is a correct build for the area that we're building in. So we always attempt to try to do it first. We never make contracts until we know for sure that the building will be allowed on each individual's property before they go into contract. So therefore, it protects the actual consumer base as well as it also protects me. Because to be honest with you, I don't like confrontation and I don't like drama. And at the end of the day, I want customers to be happy by utilizing that. Now we do have, we try to make every customer happy. We do a great job of trying to do it. I'm not saying I've been able to make everyone happy, but unfortunately there are things called contracts and people have to abide by them, not only myself, but my customers. So I have tried my best, but I am going to be the overseer of this. And that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them at this time.
So you deliver, set up, and all that?
Everything, yep.
Full service.
Full service, 100% from front to back. And then I also go a step further and never charge the customer for it. I also do all their permit paperwork, fill everything out, make sure that everything is done. I also do their lot layouts as long as it's not required as specifically engineered prints like we were talking about before I came up here today. But I will draw a layout for the customer and I don't charge them for that service. That way I make sure that the customer is getting everything they need, but the important thing is I also check with the municipality prior to going into that contract to make sure that they can have it, because that creates a lot of problems not only for your area, for your building department, for your inspectors. I've over the years I have talked to and spent much time with the zoning department and also the building department to make sure that everyone's buildings are correct for their location so they don't get the red flag after the building goes up. Now, saying that, if there is an issue once the structure goes up and it gets red flagged for something simple, which is usually what it is, an inch here or an inch there, we take care of it right away to make sure that we fall within line correctly and straightforward.
No construction on this site. This is
No.
simply
Nope.
display.
There'll
and
be no
office.
manufacturing whatsoever. This is just strictly a sales and display area only. The only construction that'll be done is when the displays get put up there.
That was my question too.
Yep, that's it. No manufacturing. There's not going to be a bunch of steel sitting in the middle of the road or anything of that nature. It's going to be a very clean location, something that all of you will be proud of when you're driving by. And if you're not, please come and talk to me. I have an open door policy. I'm more than happy to work with every single one of you and making sure that this is something that your residents and also our current and future customers are proud of.
So what's your time frame on this?
Well, right now, to get the display models up and operational, and I'm also working with Chad, which is the current business owner, the current owner of the property. He's here in attendance with me today. We are probably looking at a first week of March opening. That's just because of the fact that given the weather and everything like that, it's all dependent on how we can get those display models up. Now, saying that I could get those up quicker, I would like to, but we will be working on the inside of the structure, inside of the building for our displays, including our doors and window options, color options, steel, and everything like that, which will be inside the building to further assist the customers in knowing what they can purchase and what they can buy.
Where are your other two stores?
My other location, my main headquarters is in Potterville. It's about a 3-acre lot that currently has roughly, at one point we had 150 structures on that property with steel and wood structures. And that's our main headquarters. And then our other location is a lot that was given to us by one of our manufacturers. It failed to meet proper quotas, so they brought us in to overtake the location, and that's in Adrian, Michigan. Yep.
Where's Potterville?
Potterville, Michigan is just about 2.5 miles south of Lansing, the capital.
Okay.
We're right off the 69 freeway on exit 66 there.
You driving that way tonight?
I am actually in Big Rapids with my son at his apartment.
Good luck.
Yes.
I just
Yeah,
drove
it took me a minute to get up here. I was worried. So.
I just drove up. I know what it's like.
Yeah, it's yeah. So right now I'm currently in Big Rapids. My wife and I are planning on purchasing a home once we get, our way forward. But our job here is to get a location here, be it here in Cadillac or be it here up in the north. I would prefer Cadillac. I really like the location. I really like the city. I like the people. I've been up here many times already before this event even occurred. So I've been doing my due diligence, but Cadillac is a place that I'd like to hang my hat and call home. And hopefully, a house, we just sold our house in Holt. So we're looking forward to coming up. So we're doing a lot of things all at once.
All at once.
So,
Well, nice.
yes.
And welcome to
Well, thank you
Cadillac.
very much. Appreciate it.
Anybody else have anything for Brian? We're good. At this time,
good to me.
when you said, I'm gonna open the public hearing and see if anybody else has anything good or bad to say for
Would you
you.
like me to stand here or would you like me to go back?
Yeah, you can just sit.
Thank you very much.
So at this time, I'm gonna open the public hearing for what we've just discussed. So anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forwards and state your name, and we'll go from there.
My name's Chad Allen. I own the property that he's talking about, so of course I'm in support of it. Just, I think it would look nice to have something there instead of an empty lot. I mean, obviously I don't know if you guys know me or not, but we had my truck broker's dealership there. We purchased Galvanics on 55, so we took all of our cars for sale out there. So we think, obviously for the benefit of the town, that what Brian's trying to do, I think it's going to look nice. I agree that the railroad needs some blockage, and I think it'd be a great thing for the city. So,
It's going to impede my view of the foundry, though.
well, I'll give you a key. You can go sit over there anytime you want.
Yeah.
That's why you look familiar. I saw you on TV when you did the galvanic.
Chad, will this be a lease or a purchase? And I don't know if that has any bearing on putting
Special land
a
use.
special land use on.
So the special land use stays with the property. It doesn't stay with a person. It stays with the property unless revocation takes place, which is something that you guys would have the power to do.
Our agreement based on your decision is that it will be a lease with an option to buy.
My intention, I don't know if you need me to stand back up.
You can, so people at home can hear you.
Yeah.
The intention is once this, if this does get approved, we will be moving forward to purchasing that property. So we plan on being here forever, at least as long as I'm standing. So, yes, that's what we're looking to do.
Good. Anyone else in the audience have anything to say pertaining to this project? Seeing no one, so at this time, I'm gonna close the public hearing, and we'll kick this around briefly. I like the looks of his buildings, and I like what it's doing.
Everything's covered by the city already that I see.
it is.
There's really no questions asked.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
My opinion, a much better location than the last
I knew
special
you were
land
gonna-
use permit that was approved and revoked.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Sorry.
was thinking it, but I said no. Okay,
It's much more of an industrial.
it is.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, it's gonna clean up that corner.
It's a good spot.
Yes.
It'll clean up that corner. I was disappointed when your trucks disappeared. I didn't know what happened. So now I'm glad.
I got some flack for that. They're just over there.
They're
That's
just
Yeah.
out there, yes.
all. With about 100 more.
You ready for a motion?
Sure, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the special land use permit for Just Wood and Steel Sales and Design Center and the proposed site plan as presented, subject to compliance with final site plan review.
I'll second.
Perfect. Danielle, please.
Van Pelt,
Yes.
Rice,
Yes.
Bauman, Filkins,
Yes.
Bunce,
Yes.
Host,
Yes.
Putvin,
Yes.
Bosher,
Yes.
Fent.
Yes.
Wonderful. Again, welcome to Cadillac.
Welcome to Cadillac.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Have a sight.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
You too, thank you.
Yes.
You too.
Seeing you again.
Have a very
trip back.
slow drive back home.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right. Take it easy.
Very slick.
Congratulations.
Give him a second, okay. Public hearing B. Huh. We have an application filed by Morgan Babcock to allow for the short-term rental of a residential unit within the building at 108 South Mitchell Street. Having read that, Mr. Wallace is going to inform us about that.
Yes. This location is 108 South Mitchell Street. It's right next to the Clam Lake Beer Company. And this is the first time we've had an application for a short-term rental that is in a district that now our ordinance confirms is an allowable use by special use permit in the B2 district. So it is our first case on that kind of a short-term rental. Carol Cove Oaks did own that building. She sold it, which formerly housed her Advanced Realty Company and the Thistle Patch retail store, to Daniel Babcock. Mr. Babcock plans to use the front retail space as retail space, the upstairs space as a short-term rental, and the space at the back of the building as a cafe space. We're not concerned at all with the retail or the cafe tonight. We're just looking at the short-term rental. The subject of this special land use permit is the portion of the building which will be the short-term rental unit. This aerial photograph shows the location. You can see that it's right adjacent to the splash pad, right next to the Clam Lake Beer Company. Has access on Mitchell and also a service drive on Elk Avenue, which runs behind it. The next three slides show the different floor plans. The top portion of each slide is what is the current state of the building floor plan, and the bottom portion is what is going to be proposed for the future use of the building. So you can see here, and these graphics were also in your staff report, which were in your packet. But in some cases, not a huge difference on the first floor / basement. They are slightly expanding the cafe space. They'll still have the entryway from the rear, and the basement space will still be in a basement use. The second floor, you can see the changes here. The front is really not changing. It was retail space prior. When the Thistle Patch was there, will be retail space eventually. And then you can see the kitchen, guest bedroom, living area, and entryway to the short-term rental unit. And the final floor is, you can see off on the left side of the slide, the roof, part of the roof portion of the building. We'll have a master suite, 2 bathrooms, and then in the front part we'll still have market retail mezzanine, and that's kind of basically the layout. So the short-term rental will be kind of on the upper levels and in the center portion of the building, basically. The applicant did submit a analysis from their standpoint, addressing some of the same things I would look at, so in a sense I almost borrowed from their narrative. But in terms of community need, the proposed unit would help address specific lodging needs in the downtown, particularly for families and small groups seeking a more intimate connection with the community. Currently, the majority of accommodations are chain hotels located along the highway corridor or interchanges, which, while serving their purpose, create a disconnect between the visitors and the vibrant downtown. This leaves tourists and visiting families with limited options for experiencing authentic downtown living and supporting local businesses. And, one of the things that not everybody knows is in the tourist population, short-term rentals are becoming more and more used by families and small groups that are traveling together. And they're going to stay in those locations. And so we're not really stealing clientele from the hotels. These are probably people that would never have stayed in the hotels anyway, because of their experience in the past of being able to have a better experience vacationing in a unit where they can stay more together and also have some separation and privacy during their stay. Location advantages. The unit's downtown location offers significant benefits to visitors. Guests will be within walking distance of the downtown restaurants and shops, making it convenient for them to explore local businesses. The property also provides easy access to Lake Cadillac and Lake Mitchell, along with the area's year-round recreational activities. For those attending downtown events, our location offers unparalleled convenience and eliminates transportation concerns. And as we start to look at more opportunities in the downtown to have people stay in the downtown, it'll also help when we hold events. We've had a couple events in the past couple of years where we've held conferences in the downtown, and everybody was more or less forced to stay outside the city to attend conferences within the downtown. Hopefully over time that will change a little bit. Downtown integration. Our short-term rental will provide a welcome alternative to highway corridor hotels, allowing guests to experience Cadillac from a local's perspective. Visitors staying in the heart of downtown are more likely to visit nearby businesses throughout their stay. The presence of overnight guests contributes to downtown vibrancy and naturally supports evening dining and entertainment in the area. Property management commitment. We take our responsibility as property owners seriously and are committed to being excellent community members. We will maintain the property to high standards and implement careful guest screening procedures. Clear house rules and guidelines will be provided to all guests, and we will be readily available to address any concerns that arise. Our management approach will ensure full compliance with with all city noise and occupancy ordinances. And there is included in your packet a piece that outlines what their management strategy will be for the unit. Alignment with city goals. This single unit supports several of Cadillac's objectives in meaningful ways. It adds to the diversity of downtown accommodation options while supporting tourism on an appropriate scale. The operation of this unit will contribute to ongoing building maintenance and improve helping maintain downtown's attractive appearance. Most importantly, it provides an option for visitors seeking an authentic downtown experience that is currently limited in availability. Mitigation of potential concerns. We have carefully considered the community impact of our proposal and developed specific plans to address potential concerns. A dedicated parking arrangement will ensure guests have clear guidance on where to park. We will provide comprehensive guidelines regarding community respect and maintain property to high standards. Our commitment includes being readily available to address any concerns that might arise during a guest stay. And the applicant will have a chance to address this too, but I believe they have presently 2 spaces behind the unit that might be available for this unit. And if not, the city also has availability overnight stay parking spaces if that should be needed. Staff analysis and recommendation. The proposed short-term rental application is permitted in the B2 zoning district, subject to obtaining a special land use permit. There are no site plan issues related to this application, as there are no planned changes to the building footprint or parking areas, so it didn't necessitate any review by the department heads. The welcome guide document, which is included in your packet, demonstrates a clear management strategy for the short-term rental unit. It includes a list of house rules which address parking, quiet hours, events and gatherings, insurance and liability, local compliance, adjoining spaces, guest areas, and respect. It is my understanding that there will be a local management agent who will be able to address any issues with the short-term rental unit. The applicant will discuss how that will take place. But the issues that are in the welcome guide, that's one thing you'll probably want to make sure you consider if you're going to approve, to see that you're satisfied with the manner in which they intend to manage the unit, which is laid out in that welcome guide. Staff analysis and recommendation. To consider approving a special land use permit for the city zoning ordinance calls for general standards contained in section 46.747 to be met. We have reviewed all those standards and included our responses to those standards in your staff report, so you have access to those. Basically, they're standards relating to compatibility with surrounding uses, appropriate utility services for the use, and a few other items as well. But you've had access to that during the week. Our recommended motion would be to approve the special use permit for a short-term rental unit at 108 South Mitchell Street as proposed. And then, of course, as always, if you want to add conditions to the approval, you're totally free to add whatever additional conditions you might think might be necessary to have a successful outcome. But that's my presentation, and the applicant and owner are here if you have questions and if they want to make some comments as well.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful. You
This
guys?
is my beautiful wife, Morgan. We are the owners of 108 South Mitchell Street. We recently purchased the building with some hopes of doing a lot of things, as John so graciously overcame for us. One of the things that we want to do is turn this into a short-term rental, because I myself was born and raised here in Cadillac. I moved away when I was 18 to pursue other jobs and careers, and I came back. My family lives here. I grew up here. My grandpa used to own the mill downtown, John Sluter. So I have a very deep seat inside of Cadillac. I love the city, and I wanted to see it grow. And one of the things that we thought would be a great idea is how can we bring people to Cadillac and show the beauty that I think Cadillac has, And a lot of it is in downtown, right? There's a lot of beautiful shopping centers, the geological location of it, the farmers market, all the arts and craft festivals we have downtown. It's right by the lake. It's such a beautiful area. And the proposed unit that we have, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful outlook over the lake. And everything about it, I think, would bring in families and friends and just open up to the community and kind of show what Cadillac has to offer, instead of, you go past Maple Hill and you go out to one of the hotels, or, you go out toward Walmart and you're staying over there. You feel separated when you leave this shopping district of Cadillac. So that's one of the things we really want to bring to the table with Cadillac, and hopefully get approval for that today. You want to add?
I don't think so. I did a lot of the back work on the tail end of it. So if there are any specific questions around risk mitigation, how we're going to handle noise complaints or guest complaints or, issues like that, then happy to jump in and answer those for you guys.
It looks like you did a very thorough job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It looks beautiful.
I'm confused though. Is there gonna be lodging on second and third floor?
So it's technically, if you're looking at the back side of the building, there's the Park Place Cafe at the bottom. The next floor up would be the primary floor, so your common area, as well as a guest bedroom. And then there's a staircase that leads up to what we would consider the master suite. So yes, it would be 2 floors, but it's technically the second and the third on the inverse side of what's facing Mitchell Street.
And the building is separated with a wall right in the middle there. So then on this side is the mezzanine and then the marketplace that would be there. So.
Okay. Yeah, I was confused. Okay.
Yeah, the building's
So
quite
it still
confusing.
accommodate 6 people, is what you.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. No,
And you're right, what a view from there.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Just there today, finishing up some work and looking out there, and I see the tree and the fireplace and the snow coming down. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to make it to the meeting.
Yeah.
You'll get to see all the activity back there at the splash pad.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do.
Beautiful.
That's jumping.
Oh, yeah.
So you yourselves won't be living on site?
No, so what we're planning to do in the interim while we're getting the retail and the cafe going is to stay in the space, get it up to wherever we want it to be. It's functional for us. We've done Airbnbs in the past, is to stay here and say, what's it missing? What do we want as guests? What kind of things could we do or implement to help make a guest experience more attractive and exciting? So yes, we'll be there shortly, but no, not long term.
Okay. But you'll still be local if anything pops
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
We
Cadillac
do-
is always an imprint, and don't plan on leaving it.
We do have a house in Nashville we travel back to regularly, so we're back and forth a little bit. As John mentioned, we have a property manager who would be responsible and have a 10-minute turnaround time on all guests, addressing issues or questions. The keypad went out. I need help getting in, or noise complaints or whatever it is.
This is a stupid question, but
Very good. Any other questions? Staff? People?
I have maybe a dumb question, but how do you intend on attracting guests?
Yeah, so a couple things. So Airbnb has a good footprint, period. So as soon as you put a listing on Airbnb, anybody who's coming to Cadillac, be it for a high school graduation or to go to the slopes or even hang out and do a Christmas festival or something, they type in Cadillac and all of the local listings pop up. And so they can center that around what their attraction is. That'll be the primary way. And I've done multiple of these in the past. I've never had to do outside advertising. It's never required, putting an ad in somewhere or anything like that. So we would just rely on the platform.
And then who does the screening?
Oh, I do, and Airbnb. Yeah. We have pretty strict rules too. No pets. We don't want pets, bothering the neighbors or barking or things like that.
No pocket dogs.
No pocket dogs. No dogs at all. Obviously the exception for service animals, but it's pretty straightforward, the screening process. They do the background. They also have a review of previous stays. So if someone falls below a certain rating based on other stays, then they get screened out and not allowed to rent.
Thank you.
Not a stupid question though.
Let's just say we had a noise problem. I know there's a guy that lives, his apartment is kind of next door. How would he know who to call?
Yeah, absolutely. Greg has our personal phone number, so he
Okay.
could definitely call us.
He's pretty shy, so.
Yeah,
no.
yeah, he's super
He's
shy.
over every day we're there.
Okay.
But to build off that question, I think it's a good question. We have a noise decibel reader that we're going to install. It doesn't do anything as far as recording or camera or anything like that. It just measures the decibels in the living space. So if anything goes above that, we are instantly notified and can come on site and ask the guest to keep it down. This is above the permitted level.
Okay, right, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions for them? Or we open public hearing?
Their presentation was phenomenal, so.
Great.
Helps to be ready.
It is. It takes a lot of time out of us, away from us. I mean, we can read it and understand it ahead of time.
You covered all the details.
Awesome.
I was impressed.
Awesome. Yep. Cool. Well, thank you. Ask us anything
Okay.
else if it comes up.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing, again, based on the 108 South Mitchell to become a short-term rental. So anyone here speaking in favor and/or against, please come forwards tonight. Linda.
You knew it.
I knew it.
You want it signed in?
Good evening. Yes,
You-
please.
Okay. As you know, I have a guest house next door to my house in Kenwood Park, and we did rent it for 2.5 years as a short-term rental, and we never had an issue there. The issues all started when there was a problem across the lake on Sunnyside, and everybody decided we weren't going to have short-term rentals. I really hope you approve this. Our town needs this. It needs more like this, not just this one, but all of them have to have rules, and that was what the problem was before. There was no rules. Mine next door had a lot of rules because I only rented it if we were home. So we policed it. There was, most of my neighbors didn't even know it was a short-term rental. And the people that lived there, or the people that rented from us, and we did it like they're talking about too. We went through Evolve, and they in turn turned it in, listed it on Airbnb and HomeAway and a bunch of other ones. And they do screen them. If people are a problem in another area, they aren't allowed to rent again. And the people that rented ours, there was at least 3 or 4 times there was people that were here for class reunions. This was their hometown. There was a couple that came from, one couple was in California, one was in Texas. And they were best friends in school but hadn't seen each other in 20 years. They rented our house, and they had a wonderful, they stayed for a whole week. And they went to restaurants here, they shopped downtown. Personally, I don't shop downtown a lot. I don't buy souvenirs from my own town. But everybody who stayed in our short-term rental, I went downtown, got brochures, a lot of people gave me coupons, and we really encouraged the people to go downtown, and they did. Cheryl's Landing, they loved it. They used to rent pontoon boats to these people all the time because we put a dock out, but we didn't, they could bring their own boat, or they could go down to Cheryl's and rent one. We've had people that stayed there that were there for family get-togethers with local families. And then there was vacation families also that came up. But none of those people, and I've contacted them and said, if you want to come back, there's a lot of good hotels around. They didn't want to stay in the hotels. They didn't want to stay out of town. They want to be in town so they can do the activities. I really hope you allow this and later on allow other ones, because there's plenty of rules that you could enforce and make it good for everybody and not be a problem for anybody. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice Christmas sweater, by the way.
Time for you to get a haircut. Mine got short.
Sure.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. They don't pay me anything to do this.
We had look-alike hair up until this week.
Anyone else have comments for or against? Seeing no more, at this time, I'll close the public hearing based on 108 South Mitchell short-term rental. Group,
Questions for staff?
go.
First application in a B2 district where it would be allowed by special use permit. What does staff have in place to handle a property owner can have their own rules, but somebody still has to enforce beyond that? What do we have? What's been done to go, here's the rules to allow this? What do we have in place?
Well, primarily, when you approve this, you'll be approving the standards that they put forward. So number one, if there's issues with any of the management things that they laid out of what they were going to do and they don't do that, there's the threat of revocation. Other than that, if, you know, the enforcement process would be the same as anything. I mean, anybody in that area can file for complaints or file a complaint online even and have us investigate whether there's something that wasn't permitted, and so we would be able to pursue it from that angle. But if there's specifics that you want, especially looking over their management plan, it would be important to include that in your you know, motion to approve exactly what those were. But they seem to have addressed some of the more basic things that could go wrong. But like for instance, they said there would be a local managing agent. If you wanted to make sure that that were the case, that probably should be included in the motion to approve.
So how would you do that? Just say per their,
Here's my thoughts. Is I love the idea. I love it. It's perfect. I think being the first one here, we have to make sure we do this right, because we're going to be setting a standard. And we know some of the resistance that is out there, and so to make sure we think outside of the box, cover these things. What do we want included? Because with a special use permit, it can be revoked, and so we have to have the standards to look at to go, no, you're not in compliance with this. And so all in favor of it. I love it. I love the building. I just want to make
Well, as
sure.
John said, you know, they've provided the standards, so that's what we use.
that's what I
But
would use.
anytime we feel like they're not meeting the standards that they said they were going to,
Right.
then that's cause for review and or revocation.
But I think what Greg is saying though is, what about the next one? Are they gonna have their own set of standards? Are we gonna have a set of standards?
Well, at that point, we
Or at
can
least a
say that-
base set?
At that point, we can say you need a set of rules. Or
Right.
do we need to have a standardized rules from the city of Cadillac?
Right. They've done a lot of the work for us.
And Airbnb people, I mean, what you have here is pretty much following many of their guidelines, is that correct? You know, I mean, it's pretty much across the board how they do that?
And not just Airbnb.
No, right.
And not just Airbnb, but VRBO and a lot of the
Right,
local
right.
standards that you would apply to local tenants
In
are
reading,
all.
in reading this, that's what it looked like to me.
Yep.
Which-
Yeah, we made sure, one thing that we did notice, since this is a special use, is we wanted to make sure that we came to you with a full-blown plan, right? We don't want to come here and say, if something happens, we don't know. We wanted to make sure if you have a question, we have an answer for that question, and we also have an action for that question, right? We're going to be able to fix whatever it is that the complaint is, if a complaint comes through, on a timely manner and not have to go through a process. And what I like about this plan that we presented to you today is this is something that you could use for future tenants that want to do something similar. You could even just use this as a very base standard and say, this is what we've had here in the past. We've had great success with this. And going forward, we want something with at least bare bones to meet the standard of this document. And then maybe that's something that helps you and maybe there's something that doesn't, but I'm hoping it does.
Oh,
I definitely think it does. And, you know, in the future, should more of these come to us, you know, I think every property is going to be a little bit different than yours, right? So there may be something else we have to add to these standards, or that the staff would ask that property owner to add to these standards, but I think that's good, yes.
Carla, I also work in risk management. I spent the last 10 years of my career in risk management. So a lot of this for me is coming from, okay, so what? Or then what? And, you know, what could we potentially run into? What could the problems be? What could the planning commission come back and say to us? What could guests do that could potentially get us or themselves in trouble? So, yeah, from the experience side of having done this in the past, coupled with knowing what some of the city's rules are, and then even our own backgrounds, just knowing, you know, how to go about types of things like this, I think we've put together a really good basic bare bones that you could, and I'll do it for you. I'll turn it into like a set of standards.
She'll do it.
Yeah.
We all
to line out to that would be kind of governing over what, and this is honestly how we see a lot of the Airbnb and how we think we can make it a safe and fun way for guests to come in, but also homeowners to get the most out of their properties. Like we want to drive the tourism without, you know, shoving in a bunch of just hotels and all kinds of things. We want to make it more of a, you know, unique and intimate experience for those guests. So yeah, I think as long as you have the rules and you can establish those, but by all means, if you love the standards, take them, they're yours.
It's pretty good to have all the answers.
Not all of them, but yeah, we try.
As many as we can get.
Yeah.
Nice.
This is a great start, but a lot of it's property specific. And that's where I'm afraid that if we adopt it, we don't have enough to adopt this here yet tonight, that the staff has to take this is property specific. There has to be some set of standards that the next, our next item on the docket, then, so B2, special use permit, here's what it is. This is a great start, but trust me, I'm all for this. I just want to make sure we do it right, because I don't want this coming back when it goes to city council.
Yeah, so this is Attorney Genovich. I don't know if you can see my hand raised.
There you are.
I'm rudely interrupting to put in my 2 cents on that, and thanks for asking that. But I think the nature of a special use permit is that you craft conditions specific to the property. So if you had standards that were applicable to every single Airbnb, you likely wouldn't need a special land use process, because then if it were very regimented rules, it would likely be permitted by right, because there wouldn't be much for the planning commission to consider. I think there's some flexibility sort of built in with the special use process, because you are looking at each property individually, and appropriate conditions or rules for this property and this Airbnb may be different than those you want to impose on another one that's in a district that allows it for special use. And that could relate to parking, that could relate to noise, that could relate to other things you want to regulate. But I guess I would caution, and certainly the decision's up to the planning commission. And my recollection, and John or Danielle will correct me if I'm wrong, is that the planning commission has final approval on special uses, and it's not just recommending to city council. Is that you not be, I guess, reluctant to make a final decision based on an idea that we need to have more ordinance amendments, because I think you probably are in a position where you can decide, approve or deny applications that are coming before you now in these districts.
Okay.
So we have, say.
It was very long-winded, but I hope somewhat helpful.
No, that was very helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, Laura.
We didn't know you were there.
No,
You were like a ninja.
we just heard a voice.
I'm glad my voice came up yonder.
Voice of legal insight.
There.
She's watching.
Listening to us. Uh-oh. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That help you?
Clarifies a lot.
I agree with Greg. This is something that's
Yeah.
going to be scrutinized.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
And
It's gonna come
utilized.
up a lot here in probably the near future, because once this ball starts rolling, it's gonna turn into a snowball.
Well.
So, yeah, he's right. We need to do this right now.
Yep.
But if being a special use covers us for a lot of the differences between properties, then we always have an out.
That's right.
We do. And I would just say to you guys, I mean, this is such a thoughtful, long-term group. And there's a lot going on in society today, in the world. And we can't be afraid to be progressive and to move things forward.
Yeah.
If we think it's a good idea and we think that it can be managed and we think it's good for the community, then that's what we need to base it on. So I'll just leave that at that.
Well, also, we have the special use permit
Yeah.
that gives us oversight. And we do have the option of revoking it if the conditions are not met.
That's correct.
That's right.
And this is kind of a pilot for us, and also,
Agreed.
this is an approved use in the B2 district.
Yes.
And so I don't think, I think Laura's right. Each property is specific with specific rules, but the presentation that you've made will give us guidelines for future determination and for special use permits.
You're absolutely right.
You've got a lot of work to do.
Shy away from it.
I did. I closed it.
Couldn't remember, so.
That's okay, I have senior moments too.
So, we're
More
just
than
talking
you.
about our senior
More
moments.
than you probably, but
Look around.
look around us, I know. We're all there.
We all are there.
What? What'd you say?
You guys are some of the young ones.
Behave. What? Okay, anything else? Board. Okay?
Well, no, just before somebody makes a motion as written, what do we miss and what do we need to add to this to, because like John said, in his recommendation, subject to anything that we would see needing to be added to it. I just want to make sure we're not missing
Yeah.
something.
I don't see
I thought they
anything
were
we're missing.
very thorough in their plan.
They got the parking lot.
Yes, Miss
Yeah.
Morgan,
I
come
just
right
had
up.
one other thing, Dad. So I didn't realize we were the first. So with that, I would be more than happy, Greg, if you wanted to add in something around if things come up over the course of the next year, or as this starts to develop for you all and you see something else that works really well that we didn't include in the guide, or some kind of mitigating control that we could put into place to help keep you guys feeling rest assured and to keep the community at bay and everybody, happy, then we're happy to do that. At this point in the journey, I think we don't know what we don't know about this. And so, yeah, just wanted you all to know that we're open and willing to adapt and help you as we go. Cool.
We're both in the same boat.
I like positive
Should,
attitudes.
should we attach their house rules to the end of the,
Or to have them in the
Yeah.
consideration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
heck yeah.
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
a
you
great
can't-
idea.
You can't
gives
run
us-
now.
it gives
Yeah.
us,
You can make that motion any way that
I have one question.
makes you.
Sure, do it.
John, you guys have 2 parking spots down below, right? And those are yours specifically.
That's correct.
And so if you have 6 people there, let's say 3 couples, you have 3 cars, can they park out in the parking lot overnight?
Well,
Yes.
we have designated overnight parking spaces. They could be, permits could be purchased for the season, or they could be purchased for individual nights.
There you go.
Yeah, I just hate to have somebody have their car towed. And
We won't be there when the guests are there, though, overnight, if that helps. But yes, in the event so they would be allowed to have 2 vehicles. And in the event, we've talked longer term, a year, 2 years out, if the cafe extends and we create a patio or something, then what? And we talked to Danielle and John about how we would go about getting overnight passes, and that's
Okay.
an option.
Those would be part of the plan. When the Airbnb, they get a specific piece of
Spot.
paper, they can't lose it, they'll lose it, sorry.
Don't park in Cadillacs,
Don't
yeah.
park in
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
don't have
just
to
go
worry
park
about
at Walmart.
Right.
I've had too many people at my house in the winter and had to do that.
True. We don't.
is anybody here familiar with what Selma Township and Cherry Township has adopted?
I read their proposals and pretty much what I gathered from that, they're all on the same page with pretty much the same ideas that have been expressed in here, the kinds of stipulations and what they're looking after as far as management and so forth. Seems pretty much along those lines.
And Laura, are you still there? Can you still hear us?
Yep, I'm here.
Curious the difference from a legal standpoint. Like some of the townships now have adopted. There's certain things. One of them is, just vaguely knowing what they've adopted. No more than 3 cars allowed on their site. You have to go through a permitting process. once you're permitted. I know another one that you either have to live within 25 miles or have a property manager that is within 25 miles. And there are a bunch of different things that are laid out. What's the difference between those townships having those guidelines in place, clear, versus operating on a special use permit where it's case by case?
Well, the difference is that deciding it on a case-by-case basis as a condition provides that flexibility because you might not want the same requirements to apply to every Airbnb, just depending on where they're located and what the surrounding land uses are. So how that's crafted, having those in the ordinance versus leaving them to conditions, it's kind of a policy matter, and that's just how ordinances are written. So I'm not sure one's necessarily advantageous over disadvantageous because again you can look at each property as it comes before you. One thing you could think about is doing a periodic review if you want them to come back in a year and make sure that any complaints are being addressed or things like that. That's one option that you could write into a condition. Again, other communities might do it differently, but you can still impose conditions reasonably related to the land use.
I like that we could add that to our motion, that we would require an annual review.
That gives everybody a chance to update it and change
Who's
it,
gonna
because
do
this
the
is our
annual
first
review?
one.
Us.
And us.
But do we want to get in the business of?
What if we have
Well,
50 of them?
yeah,
Well,
we're not, yeah.
Yeah,
That could be
should
a
not
full-time job.
commission. That should be a staff thing. I don't
That's
think
a
we want to
staff.
be.
Staff.
Sure.
I think it would probably, I mean, just as we prepared the staff reports for you tonight, it would be of similar. We would reach out to the property owners, gather, I mean, all of their,
Right, I think the only time it would have to come back to us is if there's issues.
If
There.
If there's-
And they can't work them out between the property owner
And
and staff.
as always with special land uses, you guys are out in the community. If you see something, that is, I mean, see something, say something, right? And then at any given point, you guys have the authority to call them and say, hey, I noticed that this is going on, and then you can consult with the board and talk revocation, or we need to add this condition, or.
Yeah, and going back to the noise thing, not that I think it's gonna be a problem, but I think our police department should have contact numbers of all the people that are overseeing or responsible for this, so they don't have to go hunting.
agreed.
Well, it's listed here for this one. So.
Yeah, so I think the nice thing that they have proposed, and I don't mean to talk for you, but I'm not sure if anyone has stayed at an Airbnb before, but typically there's like a booklet or a link that gets shared with the guest, and all of that information is there. So if the officer has to do a door knock, their number or their property manager's number is going to be right there.
Okay. So it is there.
That's what, yeah. That's the
Okay,
way it is.
good.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
And as always, our departments all talk too. So should they have trouble finding that binder, they're not going to have trouble finding us.
The voice of legal chiming in again. I don't think it would be inappropriate to require that information be provided. And by that information, I mean the owner's contact information and property managers, so that the city staff has that in case there's an issue where the guests aren't answering the door or something like that. Because the party's too loud, I don't know. But so that the city can directly make contact even if they're not able to communicate with the guests.
Yeah, I think that needs to be part of our base.
Did you write all that down, Craig?
Communication.
Just been a right. I think he's gearing up.
Like I said, I just really want to make sure that
Oh,
we're.
God, yes, the way our feet's been
I
held
don't,
with the fire. God,
I
yes.
don't disagree with you. I don't want to have this come back and bite us later.
Nope. Nope.
Sounds like a bit before.
Just a little.
Yeah, and keep in mind, should another one come before, you get to do this process all over again. to
It's fresh
case
each
by
time.
case. It's not, you're not setting the bar for all of them. It's a
Right.
case by case, so.
Yes, but once we make,
Individual.
yeah, we can't.
You
go back
definitely
and
are
make
showing
them-
others standards from before, but there could be different conditions for other properties that step forward.
Got it figured out, Greg?
He says, why me?
Exactly,
Because Joe's not here.
exactly.
He's in Joe's.
It must be the seat.
Well, the only thing I'm looking at is, can we look at their house rules here? You know, item number one is still, left to be determined by the city. We need just a little bit of, can we attach this in its current form? You know, as it says right on it, that it is a draft. Are we missing anything else that should be on there?
I thought they covered it very well.
Yeah.
I would say,
I read all
take
of
this and attach it to your,
Yeah,
No.
your recommendation.
yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
Make a motion to approve the special use permit for a short-term rental unit at 108 South Mitchell Street with said changes. The house rules provided by the applicant become part of the motion. Additionally, contact information for the owner and property manager be provided to the appropriate staff for file. And this special use is subject to an annual review by the staff. And if staff feels needs to be brought to the planning commission, then that would then bring it. However you want to wrap that piece of it up.
Support.
Perfect.
All right.
The only, before you
ahead.
vote, the only thing that I would, maybe ask that you clarify is for that annual review, is staff just reviewing for compliance, or is the planning commission only reviewing for compliance? Or would that allow for modification of the conditions or adding conditions? Because I think that needs to be clear now, so there's not confusion later. Maybe they are complying with all of the rules, but the rules aren't enough, theoretically, hopefully this won't happen, but the rules aren't enough to avoid complaints for neighbors, and the planning commission wants to impose additional requirements. Is that the intent of that condition?
Do you
Or
have
is it
a
just-
recommendation on that, Laura?
Well, I think it's really up to you, but if you do want to be able to add reasonable conditions, I would say that now.
Agreed.
I would say for just, let's discuss before we do. I would say that it is only for compliance. If they wanted to change it, that's a whole nother come before.
Change what though, Greg? To what?
It is, if there was anything that wanted to be changed, that's a new issue. The review is just for compliance.
So,
Well-
give me an example of a change.
No, I think what Laura was saying is the review is done for compliance with what was already approved.
Correct.
But we have the opportunity to say if that wasn't enough, that we could add conditions that this board could add to the approval of the unit.
There.
Based on
There.
that review.
Based on that
That's the
review,
motion.
it would have to come back
Correct.
to the board.
So you're not shutting the door on yourself.
If you're.
And I guess I'd like to know if the applicants have any issue with that.
Just to clarify. So the annual process would be that we would be subject, we don't have to come back annually and present on KPIs or anything like that. It would just be, if there were instances of non-compliance, we could potentially be subject to coming in and talking through that, figuring out what mitigating controls or revocation.
Yeah, and I think it's an annual check-in with Danielle,
Right.
and, you know, you guys just providing record, there's review online, we can look at those reviews anytime,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So just having an open conversation with city staff, and if there's
Yep.
anything that you need from the city, just that connect.
Okay.
And something might change between now and then, so it's an opportunity on an annual basis to just talk about that.
Yeah,
But it
I
goes
think
both ways.
Yeah, I think we're
If
in
need
full.
be.
we're fine either way, whether you want to make it just the annual compliance check or if you want to allow for opportunity to expand on requirements. Like I said earlier, we're open to that. So if anything comes up, we know it's for the greater good of the Airbnb.
And there may
space here.
be things that happen that we don't know about,
You
right?
didn't know about, and you
Right.
wanted to change it or
Ex-
correct it.
Right.
Exactly. So over the course of the year, not just for the planning commission. I mean, you
Right.
guys may see things. You may work with the community. You may work with the police, and they say, you know, we've heard this, we've seen this. But us as the owners of the building, we ourselves will see, okay, maybe this is something that we could change on the next check-in in 1 year, right? Just to make sure that we fill all the gaps on our end to make sure
Yeah.
they're doing what they're supposed to do and we feel good about what they're doing, and then check in and say, what do you guys think, right?
Right.
How are you feeling about the situation? Is there anything you would love to add?
And we have our own annual kind of like self-assessments of what do we need to change, what do we need to do. So I don't want to be locked in and not able to make improvements to my own document.
There.
So yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely, I'm open to that.
Good with that?
So, Greg, how about for that last bullet, special land use, annual review by staff with opportunity to discuss conditions? Would that, how do you want it worded?
I have some
Whatever
language I'm
conditions is
working on.
necessary.
Hang on, Laura.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Laura.
Sure. I think it'd be, there'll be an annual review with staff and I'd say, and or the planning commission to confirm compliance with the special use conditions. The planning commission may add conditions at the annual review to mitigate any complaints over the past year or something like that.
Any concerns, issues?
And I would add, not even just complaints, right?
Yeah,
But
right.
improvements,
Yeah,
any
issues,
improvements
okay,
or issues or complaints, right?
Yeah.
Got it.
Got it, Danielle? Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
You wanna read that
Are
a minute?
you still going to
Support it?
support that?
I am.
Perfect. Okay. Bosher,
Yes.
Bunce,
You want her
Yes.
to read that?
No.
Fent,
Yes.
Putvin,
Yes.
Van Pelt,
Yes.
Host,
Yes.
Rice,
Yes.
Filkins,
Yes.
Bauman.
Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, that'll be fine, yeah, to have that running like that,
You're a trendsetter.
yeah.
Okay with that. Hopefully lead the way.
Okay. We have one more of these. Last public hearing, so now we have an application filed by Cynthia Watilla on behalf of the owner of the property, Matthew McCall Stillman, requesting the property at 128 East Pine Street be rezoned from OS2 to B2. And it's back to John.
Yes. Some of you are already familiar with this case because you were here when it was before the board almost a year ago. And since that time, we've confirmed and codified that short-term rentals will be allowed in the B1, B2, TS1, TS2 districts. This case that came before the Planning Commission Planning Commission recommended approval, that the City Council approve the rezoning to the B2. The City Council subsequently did not approve the rezoning, which then the house was being used as a short-term rental and eventually led to enforcement. And then the owners and I think City Council came to agreement on the terms for terminating that use, until something satisfactory could be done. Right now, the home is currently no longer being rented, and the property is now vacant and up for sale. But the owners would like another shot at trying to get the rezoning, given that there has been some changes. The other big difference now is that we have a fair amount of local community support for the application, which a lot of times at council level, they always ask, is there any people in and around the area who have been spoken to? I think the owners have spoken to a number of the people in that area and have got them to write letters of support. Basically, the owner's applying to have the property rezoned from OS2 district to the B2 district. The reason for the rezoning is to allow the home on the property to be used as a short-term rental, which is rental periods of less than 30 days. Again, this does not allow, it doesn't approve short-term rental. It only changes the district to allow a pathway for the owners to apply for a special land use. So much like we just did now, if this were approved, there would still be a whole nother step where the owners would have to come before the Planning Commission for a special use permit for the short-term rental. The owner provided a narrative in support of the request, and again, a lot of the issues that they raise are also issues that we would have to raise as part of our staff report. I've included those in here just to quickly go over them. The applicant submits the proposed rezoning is consistent with the purpose and the intent of the city's Cadillac zoning ordinance and master plan for the following reasons. The city has confirmed that the B2 district is appropriate for short-term rental and that the subject property is a natural extension of an existing B2 district. The master plan objectives include promoting the conversion of single-family dwellings into business uses and building a strong and energetic downtown that is pedestrian-oriented and comprises a range of business uses. The DDA objectives include promoting the economic development and maintaining and improving property values within the district. The property has been improved beyond the standard finishes for housing in the neighborhood. The amenities make it particularly suitable for use as a short-term rental. The yard is surrounded by a high solid wood fence to reduce noise. The game room is located in the lower level for further noise reduction, and there is ample parking in the attached garage and in the extensive driveways. The rental rate for this property is 5 times the market average for the area, and therefore allowing a short-term rental use will not negatively impact affordable housing in the area. It has been on the market for several months with no interest from potential buyers as a full-time residence. The rezoning request conforms with the zoning ordinance considerations for such amendments in that it is consistent with the master plan zoning objectives noted above. It is consistent with adjacent property uses. Rezoning this property will increase property values and bring tourists and visitors to the downtown district. As an operating rental, the owners employed 6 cleaning staff and 2 handymen for maintenance and repairs. Additionally, regular contractors for pool service, snow plowing, yard service, and delivery are also employed. With their application, as I mentioned, there was considerable letters of support. I believe all those letters are included in your packets. We received letters from the City of Cadillac Downtown Development Authority, Aaron Kennard, Amy Bizzigatti, Alan Garrow, Shiana Smalley, Connie Sheppers, and Brian Williams. Alan Garrow is with Einstein Cycles, Connie is with Fill the Gap Personal Assistance Services, and Brian Williams is with Blue Heron Cafe. With respect to the DDA, it was brought to the DDA and discussed at the DDA, and the full board approved that Steve Barnes write that letter of support for the rezoning. We did review at the prior application the existing land uses. We've updated that and found out additional information. We found out that there's a little bit more multi-unit use in that area than we originally thought. Across from this property is a 4-unit residential apartment building. Immediately adjacent to it on the east side is a 2-unit residential unit. To the rear of the property, on part of the property, touches part of the property, is a 4-unit residential. Then there's 2 single-family residential units, and then another 2-unit residential dwelling on that block. Also, there's a commercial use, which is the Book Nook, which is also on that block, which is located immediately west of the subject property. So it kind of gives you a feel for the intensity of use for that immediate area around the site. Just to get some visuals of what that looks like, this is the duplex unit located to the east of the subject property. To the west of the property is the commercial use, which is the Book Nook. This unit is north of the subject site. It's the 4-unit residential apartments, which are on the north side of it. To the northwest of the site is the public parking lot, which the city controls. And then I also looked at the current zoning districts in the area. And the predominant zoning in the area is B2 and OS2, makes up the majority of the zoning districts in kind of a 3-block area. The B2 on the block south of the subject block actually extends all the way from Mitchell out to Shelby Street. And there are a number of residential and commercial uses that are allowed in the OS2. So in switching to the B2, it's not like moving from single family to multifamily or single family to commercial. It's a much more subtle change in that the OS2 can have some of the similar uses that you could have in the B2, but they're not exactly the same list of uses. Again, this was a photo I think we used at the prior meeting. It's the house at 128 East Pine. Kind of illustrates that it's kind of a cut above some of the typical housing in the area in terms of what's on the site. There is a built-in pool. There's a beautiful deck. I think there's fountains in the backyard. I was able to tour the house at one time, and there was a number of features indoors too that were also not typically expected to be in houses within that neighborhood. The staff analysis, the house at 128 East Pine has been improved beyond the standard quality of housing in the neighborhood, both on the interior and exterior. The high quality and amenities found in this home make it particularly suitable to be used as a short-term rental. The home is not well suited to be converted into an apartment building, much like it would be some of the other houses surrounding it. And due to the already developed nature of this property, the impact of this rezoning will likely be minimal. There's probably very little opportunity, given setbacks and everything else, to add structurally to this property. And given that it's already well suited to a particular use, I don't see the home being used for more intense commercial purposes. The current zoning district in which the home is located allows for a mixture of single-family homes, offices, and personal services. It even allows for multifamily development by special use permit. So right now, under the current zoning, they could file for a special use permit to have an apartment building on that property. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the zoning districts for the blocks both north and south of the proposed site. The B1 and B2 districts are 2 of only 4 districts in which short-term rentals are permitted. At present, there are few, if any, short-term rentals within the B1 and B2 districts. Also, there are few opportunities for additional short-term rentals to be created in these districts. Given that downtown Cadillac does not have a hotel and few, if any, short-term rental units, short-term rentals are really the only opportunity for a portion of the tourist population to experience the downtown, and they can do so without the need for driving. For this reason, creating more short-term rentals in and near the downtown is a positive thing. We also believe that people staying here on vacation would likely be spending more money per capita than the year-round residents, which would be good for the downtown businesses. And I think that's in part why the Downtown Development Authority is supportive of the rezoning. Unlike the special use permit process, the rezoning process is a two-step process. The Planning Commission, after holding a public hearing, makes a recommendation to the City Council to either approve or deny the proposed rezoning application. Subsequently, the City Council, after holding another public hearing, makes a decision to either approve or deny the proposed rezoning application. So it is a two-step process going from Planning Commission to the Council, and that would happen whether you recommend approval or denial. It would advance to the City Council. Rezoning considerations the rezoning considerations are the following that are listed that I'll read. I've responded to the fact that I think those are all met in the affirmative, which was included in the staff report, so I won't read all the responses. But just to let the public know that we did take a look at, is the proposed classification compatible with surrounding land uses and zone district classifications? Is the proposed rezoning consistent with the city master plan? If not, or is questionable, does the request represent an appropriate use of the land based on changes and or other factors that have occurred subsequent to the adoption of the plan? Are existing public facilities and services capable of accommodating the land uses permitted by the proposed classification? Is the proposed classification equal to or more appropriate than the existing zone district classification? And does the request meet the criteria required by the zoning ordinance for the intended use? And as I said, you've had our responses as staff to those questions in your packet. Staff recommendation, we find this rezoning application to place this property into the B2 district to be equal to or better than its current designation as OS2. The fact that the site is fully developed with a residential structure and supporting accessory uses will limit its use for the full range of activities that may be permissible in the B2 district. I believe the proposed use as a short-term rental will be beneficial to the downtown. The City of Cadillac Downtown Development Authority has written a letter of support for this rezoning. Maintaining it as a short-term rental will also help ensure the proper maintenance of the property, as it is common for renters to rate the facility online. Given the analysis contained in this report, we recommend that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council that this property at 128 East Pine, gives the parcel number, be rezoned from OS2 Office Service District to the B2 Central Business District. And then, of course, the Planning Commission action. The Planning Commission shall recommend to the Cadillac City Council either approval or denial of the rezoning application. In making that motion, the recommendation should be supported by the findings of fact, which is the record prepared by the Planning Commission, which would consist of the staff report, review of all public comments, and other factual information applicable to the application. And that might be information that comes from the public hearing. But that's my presentation. The owners are here, and a representative for the owner is here, and they might want to make some additional comments prior to opening the public hearing.
Before I do that, John, question. So we are only talking tonight about the rezone.
That's
if
correct.
that goes through, then they come back to us for the special land use permit to make it a short-term rental.
That's correct.
Okay, so we still have control. Okay. Okay.
And that's we should limit the discussion for the appropriateness of the zoning district versus the specifics about how the site is set up to handle the short-term rental. That scrutiny would come much like the last public hearing when we go to the special use permit.
Okay. Anyone have comments before I open public hearing? Anything to add to what John said? Or not?
This is Cindy Wotilla appearing on
Yep.
behalf of them. So you want me to address those comments now or in the public hearing?
Was there anything
Well,
John
if
missed that
if
you
you
want
think
us
I
to
missed
know?
anything that you wanna say, now would be the time to do that.
Okay, so I would just build on that. Again, Cindy Wotilla, appearing on behalf of the owners of the property. And just to add the procedural background that, and sort of identify the chronology of this, because as John referred, this was previously, a previous application for rezoning was before the board a year ago. And it was approved, the board made their recommendation, and then it went to city council. So this particular property was caught up in a perfect storm of the long-term planning and the reevaluation of the short-term rental regulations. So at the point when they made their initial application, and I mean, I will only go into this background if the council, or you feel that it's necessary for your review. I just want to be clear that the applicant, when they received the approval for the rezoning from the Planning Commission, it was their belief that they were good to go with operating the premises and as a short-term rental. There was no short-term rental ordinance in the city at the time. They applied for the rezoning with the understanding that transient lodging was allowed in the B2 district. So that's why they applied for the rezoning. And they were never advised that the city council did not approve that, and they never received any notice not to rent until after the city adopted the short-term rental ordinance. And once the city adopted the short-term rental and they realized that this was not within a zone allowing the short-term rental, they contacted the owner. The initial contacts were not received because the owner was moving, and the notice went to the wrong property. But when the city took enforcement action, they immediately responded, immediately stopped operating their short-term rental, and worked with the city to try and come back and be in compliance. And as to all the other points that were raised by staff, we agree wholeheartedly also with the previous special use permit application and your very thoughtful consideration as to those standards. The applicant is prepared to address all of those concerns, assuming we get beyond this phase. But the main point is that the rezoning was approved prior to the short-term rental ordinance being adopted, and it seems like with the adoption of the short-term rental ordinance, there's all the more reason to approve it again and recommend approval, and then we'd have to go before the city council to finalize that approval. So,
Thank you, Cindy.
did you want to hear from the?
If they have any input that we need to hear before opening the public hearing,
I
yes.
would love to. Hi guys. So sorry for the amount of drama that this property has caused, or short-term rentals has caused overall.
Your name, please.
Sarah Glidewell. I am one of the owners on Orange Cadillac, and I am the primary operator. Matthew Stillman, the guy who is on the deed or the title of the property, was a guy who took a chance on me when I first found this property. I didn't have enough money to pursue this property without some financial backing from other people. But I am extremely passionate about finding properties that look like works of art that I think need to belong to the public, that I think, the public needs to experience besides just one person. When we found this property, I saw it as something that had been sitting online for forever that no full-time resident wanted to purchase, and we didn't have the data to support that it would be a profitable endeavor, but looking at it, I was like, man, this property is just going to be really exciting for a group of people or several groups of people to enjoy. I think the biggest thing that I want to reiterate that she already mentioned is that you guys had reached out to Matt while he was in the process of moving last year. He had his first baby and he moved homes and upgraded to a larger house so he could make room for a baby, and that got lost in translation and that never got back to me. And so by the time it got back to me, I hope all of you at this point who have been in contact with me know that I've been super communicative. Like, if this would have been on my radar that we were doing something wrong earlier than it was, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. I would have been at the original city council meeting had I known that there was another step beyond the rezone process. And so we're standing here in a little bit of a mess that was just complete ignorance on my behalf on how this needed to be handled in the city. The advantage I think we have at this point is that you get to see our reviews, our lack of complaints from noise complaints from our neighbors. And when I met with the DDA, they were very clear that if we were going to have any luck with this at all, it was going to have to be a very grassroots effort of us kind of doing the work for you guys and getting an opinion from downtown, from our neighbors, just doing that legwork for you guys, which was more than happy to do. And so we've spent the last several months, putting mailers in all of the downtown businesses, putting mailers in all of our neighbors' properties, developing more solid relationships with our neighbors, making sure that everybody has our contact information, that we haven't been a nuisance, or if there was improvements, we would absolutely take those into consideration. But we were met with overwhelming support as well, which was great to see. So that's where we're sitting today. I know that this isn't to decide whether this can be a short-term rental or not. Of course, that's my first choice, because that's what I'm familiar with. I'm very passionate about hospitality and running a tight ship on that end of things. But even beyond that, if it wasn't a short-term rental, if later on down the road you guys decided like, hey, we're not going to grant you the special use permit for this, even in us having to consider other functions for this house, like what else could it be then besides a full-time residence? None of those other options that make sense for this house fall within the OS2 zoning. So it's like, even if we wanted it to be a micro wedding venue or, something else, it doesn't qualify in OS2 either. So our hands are super tied with the zoning that it is right now, unless we find another full-time residence. And I mean, you guys are familiar with the property as well. It's like every single tour that we have of somebody who's interested in that property, they choose a lake house over this property because of the surrounding area. Like, they're, surrounded by apartments and a bookstore, and that's just not the neighbors that they want for the caliber of house that is that. And so we're just kind of, trying to figure out what to do with this property, trying to, work with the city in a way that makes sense. But I just want you guys to know that my interest is in running a successful short-term rental that helps the businesses and locals in the area and doesn't cause noise complaints. And so hopefully, at least from the last time we presented this till now, we've got a lot of proof from the neighbors and the reviews and the downtown district and so on and so forth that we have run a professional business over the last year and a half. So we're just now at your mercy and just are really hopeful that we can, continue operating it the way that we have been for the last year and a half up until we shut down.
You're in a damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Not my favorite position.
I did have one additional letter of support that was not included in the initial packet. So.
I'll just need one.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Oh, I meant for us too. You can pass it on to the board. Sorry.
No, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Danielle was going to read it to us.
You've heard my voice enough, I think. You're lucky Adam isn't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for somebody out there. I'm seeing the last name of Stillman with one L and two L's. What is correct?
Two.
It's all over in different types, so. Just
And
for
then on that same
legal
note,
purposes.
on the application here, it says Brandon McCall Stillman. You mentioned Matthew Stillman. Who is the owner?
Matthew, well, we all are part owners of it. Matthew is on the title of the property.
Okay.
I don't know Brandon Stillman.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Noticing that on the.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't know who Brandon is?
On the zoning application, go to the zoning application.
Yeah.
The redacted one, it says Matthew McCall Stillman on the zoning application.
But on our planning commission,
Rezone.
oh, okay,
The owner applicant says
Owner
Brandon
applicant.
McCall Stillman.
might just be a clerical error on
Where are we at?
staff.
Are you on a staff report?
No.
Okay.
The
That's-
planning commission rezoning report from December 17th. From the community development department.
So that would be a staff report. I was looking at the zoning application. Okay. That would just be an error on John's behalf.
So it should be Matthew?
Correct. Consult the zoning application,
All right.
not the staff report.
Mm-hmm. Matthew McCall Stillman with two L's. Gotcha. All right.
Everybody ready to open public hearing?
Sure enough.
Perfect.
Shoot.
At this time, I'll go ahead and open public hearing. Anyone here to give us input for or against rezoning only is at 128 East Pine to be rezoned from OS2 to B2. That is what is on our plate.
I won't talk about short-term rentals. Okay. But there is nothing else to be done with that house unless you do rezone it. She's already said, there's no one that wants to buy it for a single-family home. The previous owners, they really overbuilt that place.
Sure did.
We all know that. And it's gorgeous.
It is.
And it should be used by someone. And to just have it sit there vacant and they can't find a buyer for it for a single-family home, you're gonna create an eyesore.
Yeah.
So I really hope you do rezone it.
Give us your name again, just for the.
Linda Durant, I still
know
wrote
all
it down.
that and stuff, but they tell me I'm
And he
supposed to
likes
tell
your
you
sweater.
that, so.
Yeah, and, yeah.
And a
Yeah,
good
that
haircut.
too.
And I got it.
Okay.
I should have worn mine. Oh, we do.
Anyone else in our audience this evening, any input?
I'll have to look and see. I got one too.
My name is Ethan Glidewell. Do I need to sign this? Okay.
Please.
I hope to have hair like that at your age. That's the goal.
That's your age.
40 years old, of course.
That doesn't
Okay.
work. You're already screwed up.
You're only
42, yeah. Yeah, I'll keep this short and sweet. I just think that this house could be used as a reflection of the city of Cadillac, as a good thing. Like she had mentioned, instead of it being an eyesore, let it be something the city is proud of. I've often said, probably 100 times at this point, and this is the last thing I'll say, is that this house can't be used, in my opinion, for anything other than something the public can use, such as a short-term rental or a museum. And so if you haven't had the opportunity to look at that house and go inside it, not only before we have done the reservation or renovations, but after, if you haven't gotten to take a look at it, we would invite you to schedule time to do so, because it is truly a piece of art, and we hope that we can keep it going in the city of Cadillac. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. I think.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any input? Other input? If not, I'll close public hearing. We'll discuss this and keep everybody moving. Okay, at this time, I'll close public hearing. Board will discuss. So rezoning only. That's all we're doing, period.
which we've already done once.
We did, but we got blindsided.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
That's right.
And
Yes.
We can do it again.
So,
So can I ask, what was the reason council chose not to approve this last time?
I believe the term spot zoning was brought
Well,
up.
I recall one member talking about not wanting to deal with short-term rentals on a one-off basis, and they wanted more of a comprehensive look at it, which to some degree we've accomplished with at least codifying what districts they're permitted in, but it didn't go beyond that. It just stopped at that point. So
Can I address that? Sure. I have the minutes of the meeting. I have the minutes of the meeting, and it was, interestingly enough, there was a motion made by King and supported by Ellenboss to not approve adopting the ordinance amending the city zoning map due to future revamping of the ordinance. So the actual motion was because they were in this,
Perfect storm.
yeah, and the minutes, I'm assuming this is a typo, but it might explain why there was confusion about what happened with this. There was a motion and support. The minutes don't reflect that any vote was taken. So, it could be a typo, but.
Can I say something too? I have watched that recording because it's haunted me for the fact that I wasn't there. And by the time we were in a larger lawsuit with you guys, I was like, holy cow, what did I miss? And so I went back on that recording to watch that city council meeting that I didn't attend where we weren't given approval for that. And the two things that they wanted, just like she had mentioned, was really not wanting to handle this in a one-off because you guys were about to start developing regulations for the city at large. But the second portion of that was, what were the neighbors' opinions and were we good operators? Because at that point in time, we hadn't operated yet. Like, we were less than a month into running it as a short-term rental. And so that's why we really focused on getting the neighbors and the downtown district's opinion, and then also just providing those reviews so you could see not only how much people are flooding into downtown to spend their dollars while they're staying in the property, but also the kind of time that they're having. And then we also reached out to the police department to make sure that we never got any noise complaints or any complaints at all, and we didn't. So from that perspective, we felt like now you've got more information than you had originally that supports, you know, us being good operators and our neighbors and businesses supporting us as well.
And this time you will be at that council meeting.
Wouldn't miss it.
So, John, can we talk about spot zoning and overlays and, you know, what is this discussion gonna turn into? If you were to anticipate what this discussion is going to turn into, how can we manage our way through that? So when it goes forward, we're ready for that discussion.
well, with respect to spot zoning, I don't think that's probably a likely thing to come up, primarily because the property immediately adjacent to the west is in the same zoning district. And so we're not creating a new single lot zoning that doesn't have any bearing or relationship to the zoning districts that are next to it. So I think we're probably good on that count.
Okay,
right, you extended it one lot.
right.
Yeah.
And we know that whole area, that whole,
Yeah, we do.
it's surrounded by rentals. It's not any,
For the most part.
Yeah.
There are a couple single families left, but there's more multi-unit structures.
Yeah. And rental units in support of this.
oh, yes.
You know, in the block south, that does extend all the way from Mitchell to Shelby Street on the southern portion of that block. So it's not unlike other blocks in the downtown where once the zoning district on the frontage starts to infiltrate the blocks behind it, it usually happens as a natural progression for more of that block to be consumed by those zoning districts. That's just a logical thing that happens over time.
I think it makes perfect sense.
John,
really for some clarification from records. So we have, sharings here of miscommunication, timing, not knowing. Can you tell us from records? So we had a planning commission, city council did not adopt. Then, were there notifications mailed? When? How many responses? Then down to the actions that took for them finally to cease. Can we get a description of that so we know from the staff standpoint, so we can compare those two to help understand a little bit the process that has brought us back here?
Well,
I
the
can
city
jump in.
council, they hold a public hearing, but unlike the planning commission, notice doesn't get sent out to people within 300 feet. So the city council, when they held their public hearing, would have published a notice in the paper notifying the community, essentially, that there was going to be a public hearing on that use. I don't know what the internal workings are from the clerk's standpoint. Our department doesn't handle the things that start to go on through council. We carry it through the planning commission. I'm not sure what the standards are when things go through the council and get acted upon. I do know that they publish a hearing notice, and that notice is given for that, but I don't know if they also mail it to the involved applicant. So that I wouldn't know unless I were to check with the clerk or whoever was handling that at the time.
Did you want background on the demands to cease the use? Because I have some of that information because I handled that.
Yeah, Laura, that's what I was asking. Trying to
Yeah.
kind of put a timeline together here of what this looked like.
Sure. So you do have to look at it in the broader context of the city beginning enforcement action on a number of different short-term rental properties that were not permitted. So this was not the only property that we were dealing with. It looks like there was a written demand, and these would have been sent to Matthew McCall Stillman. We had a couple of addresses for him in Royal Oak back in May of 2023. And then the city was focused on some other properties more that year. So I'm not sure how many other letters were sent in 2023, but we then sent a letter in March of 2024. And eventually, the way they successfully reached him was finding his email address on his business website and was able to email him correspondence in May of 2024. So it was a bit of time. Now, I don't think that in any way precludes rezoning, to be clear. The standards for rezoning should relate to whether this proposed rezoning is consistent with the city's future land use plans. Is this what you want this property to be? Not short-term rental specifically, but do you want it to go from OS2 to B2? Based on the property's location, more so than prior enforcement action.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's how the can of worms got opened and started and went, because they couldn't get a hold of people. And then we got
Well, I think
blindsided.
we're facing two issues. We're facing one tonight that is, I think, quite clear, and like Laura said, takes none of that into consideration.
Correct.
Two sides can argue how that went. Is this a good fit for B2? Special use permit will be a whole nother conversation.
Agreed. Yes.
And I think that's what we need to clarify, that is this a good fit for B2?
And it seems as if it is, and that does open the option for a special use permit so that the actual use of the property can be evaluated in of itself once it's rezoned to an appropriate zoning platform. And it seems to me that that is appropriate to rezone it to B2. Because
It just
that's,
has so much potential.
there's so much.
Where it's setting right now, it doesn't.
It doesn't, it can't move.
Exactly, and there's no reason not to rezone it because all of the properties around it, it's all compatible to B2, in my mind.
This is one of the cleanest ones I think we have. There's no residents with the people aren't here screaming and yelling that we're going to do it. Yeah, me too. I really miss that, especially just before Christmas.
I do too. I'm glad you mentioned that.
So, and to go past that, I was here on the last vote that I think was unanimous that we voted to make this B2. So now that everything's been things have been straightened out. I'm not going to say resolved, but straightened out. I would suggest that we approve this.
Would you like to make the motion?
No.
Wow.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, do it.
I will, guys. I'm just messing with you. I make a motion to just strictly talk about changing this to a B2 of the 120 West Harris Street, Cadillac, Michigan.
Oh.
And-
128.
Oh,
128.
oh, I'm sorry. Read the wrong one. 128 East Pine Street, Cadillac. Sorry. And provide this and pass this to City Council for their approval. I can't think of anything to add to that.
Probably could just say that you're making that motion based on the staff report and public comments from the public hearing and letters of support.
Based on staff report and the many communications from area residents.
I'll second that. I'll support it.
Pilkins,
Yes.
Host,
Yes.
Van Pelt,
Yes.
Bunce,
Yes.
Bosher,
Yes.
Bauman, Fent,
Yes.
Putvin,
Yes,
Rice.
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, so I know that the city council meeting is gonna be more difficult because of the public. And I just would love some advice on like, I wanna make this as easy as possible if you guys are at all interested or you think the city council is interested in this being a short-term rental, if there is any amount of like legwork or anything that I can do to prepare for that in a way that's gonna put us in any possibility of getting approval.
I would say you have letters of support from a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to invite them to be in the room.
They are all planning on being there.
That's my only advice to you.
Not only that, but any other time we've talked about short-term rentals, this place has been full and people outside.
Yeah.
There's nobody here that spoke negatively about it, so I'm not saying it ain't gonna happen, but I'm just saying your chances are very low.
Yeah, I'm nervous for that one, but
That's your next hurdle after this one.
I know, yeah.
And Sarah, also, if you, I know at the DDA meeting you had a presentation. If you have something like that that you would like to give to council, I can certainly give that to the clerk so the council would have that.
Perfect.
And then it would be available for your use on the screens as well
Okay.
at the meeting.
Okay. And then maybe have our house rules available as well, like they did.
Yeah, they did a real nice job. I mean, I would kind of mimic them.
Well, that
That's
won't
my
be
opinion.
for the
But
city
that's
council
special
meeting
use.
though.
Special use. That's
No,
for
not for
special-
council.
Not
That's
for
the next
council.
That's for when you come back
When
here.
you come
Jim.
back here.
Just for the special use permit, if it's approved to be rezoned.
First, we've gotta get it rezoned.
It needs to be rezoned first and then the special use permit, and then you can present your house rules as, or whatever kind of
Okay.
proposal you'd like to make.
Well, if you have any other advice in the meantime, I'm happy to do the legwork. Like, we know that this, we stayed out of the process of you guys trying to figure out what the correct way to go about short-term rental regulations was, because we know I have a few other properties in the state and they all have gone through regulation changes as well. So we know how stressful it's been for you guys. It's also been stressful for us. And so we really try to stay out of it and not cause any of the drama, but if you guys have any advice on how to make this easier for you guys, we're happy to do that legwork. We're happy to work with you guys, now that you have contact with me and not Matt, who's moving around. So we just want to make ourselves available and handle it in the way that makes it easiest for you as well. So, thank you.
Okay, new business, nothing. Old business, nothing. Board member comments. So you commented out? I don't know. Yes, no?
I would just, board member comments, I would just like to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. It's been an honor to serve again with you this year.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yeah. No other communications, staff? We're good?
Good.
Perfect. Any other public comments before we get out of here? Everybody good?
Linda's gonna stay sitting. I'm gonna sit down.
Awesome. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
We're out.
Where did you guys get that?